does deserve shelter. She does deserve respect. She does deserve a home. She does deserve dignity, respect.
To me, music is a release.
So last year we kept almost 2 million pounds of materials out of the landfill, and we know that because we weigh items when they come in.
So like 11 years ago, I've been evicted. I was evicted. After being evicted, my family and I were separated because I had to go with my brother who lived in an efficiency apartment. My girls had to go with their godmother. So we was separated for a whole year until I was able to find a place.
For a long time, we haven't known how big of a problem eviction was. We didn't know what it was doing to families. The housing crisis isn't at the top of our domestic agenda, and it absolutely should be. So this is a way to tell the story. It's a way to tell the story by new facts and new statistics, but importantly, it's a way to tell the story by elevating the voices of the families that have been evicted and have faced this crisis.
It was very humiliating. It was hurting. It was embarrassing. I felt like a failure. Not only to myself, I felt a failure to my kids.
One of the things that this eviction exhibit does is help us throw this problem into the light. Take a problem that's been invisible and put it on the map. I think that's the first step. So today, most poor renting families spend most of their income on housing costs. 1 in 4 of poor renting families spend 70% of their income just on rent and utilities. So to someone that would ask me, hey, is this just irresponsibility? I would respond by saying it's more inevitability. When you're paying 70, 80% of your income on a housing cost, a very small misstep can lead you to get evicted.
When a person get evicted, it's something that always live with you. It never ends, because now legally, when you rent another place, that eviction goes with you. So your previous landlord always knows that you've been evicted before. So now he's going to use it to his advantage to make sure that he could, milk you.
If you look at the numbers that we can see in places like London and Paris, our evictions are incredibly higher than those numbers. We have a speedy, efficient eviction crisis, and we have an eviction crisis that affects about 6,300 Americans every single day receive an eviction judgment.
I think the laws need to look at people as human. Look at us. If you could look at an animal and don't want to see an animal on the street, then why would you want to see a human on the street?
I brought a tent, a sleeping bag, and a pillow.
Yep.
Okay. And a bottle of water.
One of the biggest things we want to do with this action is, first off, bring the attention of the council members, the mayor. If we keep leaving this without a crisis response, this is what you're going to see on every city block in LA.
I used to be homeless for 9.5 years, and that was not something I decided. It was something that I experienced because the system failed me. And so trying to get off of the street, I was what they called chronically homeless. I was violated while I was on the street. I was violated while I was in the shelters. I was very traumatized by a lot of things that happened. A lot of people took advantage of me because, you know, it's when you're traumatized like that, being a female and on the street, who do you go to? You can't go to the cops. When you go to the cops, they don't believe you.
Past couple of years, we saw a huge explosion in the number of homeless people in Los Angeles.
Hey, what's up, dude? Are you alive? Hey, are you alive?
Unofficially, there are 6,800 women living outside of shelters. Unofficially, you're looking at over 30,000 women sleeping out of shelters. What we want through the She Does movement is for the city of LA to rapidly shelter as many of these women as possible.
She does deserve shelter. She does deserve respect. She does deserve a home.
Yep.
She does deserve dignity, respect.
She deserves protection, love, a home.
Thank you all. Thank you. Sit, please. Here in this city, we stand shoulder to shoulder with a homeless family. We need to stand up emergency shelters fast, and we need to do it now. Shelters that serve as a rest stop on the path to permanent housing.
We are all in Slab City in part because we don't like Babylon for some reason or another. We're also all here to an extent because Babylon doesn't like us. This opens up so that way we can keep puppies out of the living room. That's what we call this area. Normally there is these blankets up here to provide shade, and it makes a really comfy spot. It's been a little windy, and so it knocked them all over the place, and I'm a bit short by myself to put it back up.
I came here from Rhode Island. I was working just like everybody else. I had a job, full-time job. I fixed houses, I plowed the streets of Rhode Island, I worked on diesel trucks, you know, and I got tired of putting money in everybody else's pocket. And it seemed like every time I put money in their pocket, they never put money in my pocket. You know, you get a paycheck and that's about it. You know, no pat on the back, no nothing, you know, and I got sick of that.
Don't mind the mess. The wind last night was crazy. But this is only part of the solar power here. Those panels up there on the roof go inside to that box and then down to the batteries and allows us to use the juice. I'm making this whole area here is going to be enclosed, and there's going to be a solar roof on the top of it.
Oh, let me feel bad.
Well, in the city you have to pay electricity. You'll pay hundreds of dollars a month for electricity.
100.
Yeah, you know, hundreds. You never know how much it could be. Here you pay $100 for a solar panel and it'll last 2 years. And some batteries and that lasts 2 years, and there's your power. And a generator that lasts you, you just pay for gas and it'll last you a long time.
How much normally you spend for gas on a month?
For a month, maybe $200. The most bill you pay, gas and propane. Okay. Gasoline and propane.
How much is propane normally?
Propane, we can go $40 for the month.
Okay.
And we could cook on that all month and run the hot water heater.
Different people have different means of getting food and money. There are lots of businesses throughout the slabs. There are solar panel, water delivery businesses. A lot of the things that you don't necessarily need money to get access to resources here. There are lots of things that are considered currency. You can trade a lot. Beer, weed, shiny rocks, building materials, paint, crafting materials. Anything that someone can use is tradable. There are a few things that are sacred in Slab City, but one of them is boundaries, whether it's literal or figurative, right, or metaphorical, right? We have literal boundaries, as in walls, as in borders people build around camps. In the filming that you've done, or maybe at East Jesus, you may have seen like the tire borders around a camp or things like that. So those are all ways that people say, do not cross without asking, right? That is also true on an interpersonal level. Slabbers don't like being filmed without being asked. Consent is the rule here.
You know, you asked and it was beautiful. Yep, that's the way to handle it. You know, it just shows that you respect us and respect our community. When you have the consideration, you sit there and ask, hey, is this cool? Right. You know, and it's simple things like that.
Here, you come here, you get pampered, you get babied, give you a place to stay. You're hungry, I'll feed you. You don't need money. You know, not everybody has money, and I know that. And if I see something like that, I'll help if I can. But this here is a little getaway for people like you who are tired of the whole same thing every single day. You know, come out, well, these people are living weird, you know, but they're making it work. We'll let everybody know that you don't have to live in a society that you do. You can do things on your own. It's a little harder, but it makes me feel better. I smile every day. I got a smile on my face every single day.
So what would prevent Slab City in turning into Babylon?
Me. Read my lips. I'll take every board down, every screen down, everything down if Babylon moves here. And I'll move away. I'll find another place and do the same thing all over again.
In terms of the donors, we actually have more individual donors who's cleaning out a closet and has some extra. But in terms of the volume, it's businesses in New York City. Materials for the Arts is a 40-year-old program, and what we do is that we take donations from everywhere, from businesses and individuals, and we bring them to this warehouse where we display them, and then twice a week we're open to our members and we give these things away for free. We're part of the Department of Cultural Affairs in New York City, so we're city government. And we get additional funding from some other agencies, the Department of Education and the Department of Sanitation. We have dance companies and theater companies and visual arts organizations, and we also serve the public schools in New York City.
We run a workshop over the summer for teachers, and so we're always looking for materials. They do basically a very short, intense creation process where they make their own operas within 5 days, and so they're creating their own costumes and their own sets and things like that. So we use this primarily, the materials that we're looking for today are for that.
Mostly fabrics of bright colors. So we're doing the Lower East Side Festival, which is a festival that happens in the Lower East Side. So we're getting a lot of materials to create costumes for the parade.
We're not open to individual artists, but an individual artist that is working with a nonprofit on a public artwork, like a mural project in a neighborhood or a concert in a neighborhood, if they were sponsored by the member organization, then they could come in and get materials for that project only. In terms of the donors, we actually have more individual donors, so it could be someone like you or me who's cleaning out a closet and has some extra bags of yarn, or we're moving and we have some things we want to donate. But in terms of the volume, it's businesses in New York City.
We take everything. We take things from across the spectrum, and we never turn something away because we see those materials as valuable art supplies. We don't take clothing, we don't take new objects, because we'd rather those go to other services which help people in Rio's capacity in New York City. So we do programs with students across New York City. We go to schools. We send teaching artists into schools to create art projects with the teachers, with the students. And then we have students come here for field trips to Materials for the Arts and then get a tour of the facility, and they work with an artist, they make an art project, and they really learn about how reuse can be a part of art making for them.
That's a very sustainable thing because budgets in schools are also very limited. So if you can use what's around you and put that in your curriculum, then your students can continue to be creative and make projects without there being a big price tag associated with it. Back in 1990, the Department of Sanitation realized that this was a program of keeping things out of landfill, and they realized that they should support it, and that's when we began getting money from them. So last year we kept almost 2 million pounds of materials out of the landfill, and we know that because we weigh items when they come in.
I think when I work on projects, I don't even really imagine buying things because I know that this is a possible resource to use. And it just makes sense to me.
When he came to me with this idea, I thought he was a little crazy. But people think it's just really cool, a little bit insane.
The dream is to create a platform that allows musicians, not just us, but many musicians to share their craft and their art broadly.
Nick was actually the person who originally came up with the idea.
I was traveling with my grandfather.
When they would dock, they would go to certain churches where he could practice, and while he was practicing, people would gather, drawn to his playing.
And in the evenings, we'd go to these town squares, and people were all around, but there was no music.
After that, he started thinking, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could make some kind of traveling venue?
Why not a truck that can go anywhere in the country?
When he came to me with this idea, I thought he was a little crazy. But people think it's just really cool, a little bit insane.
We started by winning a Creativity and Music Award from our university in South Carolina. And that was matched by the Performing Arts Consortium. They provide some financing for artists to perform. We also had a South Carolina Arts Commission grant. We've been to Columbia, Dayton, Ohio, Baltimore, DC, and in Minnesota we've been to Alexandria, Fargo, St. Paul, Duluth.
So we've been in a few schools. We've been to a children's home. We go to restaurants, open squares, pretty much anywhere you can park a truck. We've probably done it so far. Ideally, I like to get about 4 hours of practicing in each day. And then we also will rehearse an additional hour or two. I think there's definitely a kind of endurance that you gain from playing on the truck. There's so many distractions that, that are around, and for you to be able to tune out and just really glue into the music is, I think, a huge skill. Sometimes the weather is not ideal. Like today it was very windy, so it was hard to keep our music on the stand. Sometimes you get rained out. There's lots of noise, lots of distraction. Usually when we perform in the concert hall, everything is very controlled. Everybody is very quiet, and the lighting has to be just right. But in a place like this, I mean, anything could really happen.
It's an amazing time we live in because people can listen to music anywhere they are on their earphones with MP3 players, but there's something about live music that is essentially human and connecting.
I was walking to the market and all of a sudden I heard Prokofiev's Cinderella being performed on piano. It was extraordinary. I love Prokofiev and I love Cinderella, and it was just very magical for me.
We think classical music tells stories that are universal, and we try and share little pieces of information that help that might help a listener clue into the things that we feel when we're performing it.
And because they gave a description of the music before they played it, what the scene would be, I think it really got people's imaginations into it, and they could really feel the music a little bit better.
I felt, the emotion behind their playing just reached to everybody here.
When you listen to live music, there's an energy that you just can't get from a recording. It brings people together, and for me, makes life worth living. We want it to be easier for people to share music. Classical musicians, but also we hope to collaborate with musicians of all kinds.
To me, music is a release that brings satisfaction and comfort to the one who produces it. Well, I started out playing the piano when I was 6. I was at a church dance, and there was a band from New Orleans that came to play for that dance. And they had 2 young trumpet players in the band. They were really cool. So what happened, all the girls went after these 2 trumpet players, including my girlfriend. So I said, well, I gotta do something about this. So I went home, I asked Dad if I could play the trumpet. And he told me, he said, why you want to play the trumpet? I said, well, I think I like the trumpet. And I started lessons on the trumpet. I continued lessons on the piano and trumpet. And it went on like that for a while. And I got my girl back. Eventually, Jeff Brown, the manager of Ray Charles, approached me and he said, Ray Charles is forming a new band and he would be interested in you playing trumpet in the band. And of course, Ray Charles, I said yes. I was honored by that. And a little nervous. I didn't know then of the genius of Ray Charles that I found out later. But anyway, now in my life, I'm playing music mainly with the Bunker Island Strummers. To be a musician is like fulfilling a part of your life that's irreplaceable. It's something that I enjoy, and I get a satisfaction from it.